Hi, guys. Welcome to tonight's live chat. It's so good to see you. It's been a while, right? Maybe a week. For me, it feels like it's been a long time. So definitely missed you guys, and I miss the cognitive exercise that my mind has when I'm here with you. So I'm so glad to see all of you in the chat box. I'm going to give you guys time to sign in as I introduce the content. So far, it looks like Instagram is following along for once. So I think I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Before I do that, though, let me just thank every last one of you on this channel and on Instagram for praying for my mom, supporting my mom, giving us positivity, and giving us hope. She's now home. She's actually right upstairs watching TV, taking it easy, trying to still recover. But, it was almost like she didn't have a stroke. That's how much I rely on my faith. And I believe that God and all of your prayers and your love towards me and my mom really helped us get through that very, very difficult time. So we're just hoping she continues to go up from this point on. So thank you so much. I love every last one of you. Thank you. Okay, let's jump into this topic about toxic love. And we're not just talking about the toxic love that you have between two people who are in a relationship. We're talking about family. We're talking about friends. We're talking about coworkers, supervisors. And of course, we're talking about relationships. Today is a beautiful day in the sense that the entire goal of today is to show forth to anybody that you care about that I love you, I support you, I want to be there for you when you need me, and you can trust that when you're in my hands, you're going to be okay. I learned that this past weekend with my mom. I realized some different pieces of myself that I hadn't realized before, and what that piece was this: that no matter what happens, no matter how tired I am, no matter how exhausted I am, because let me tell you, walking from the parking lot of the hospital into the hospital, up around the bend, getting off like 4 elevators, I wanted to collapse. Okay. And my older brother was like, damn, you're strong, because I'm like carrying 5 bags up to my mom's room, and we're just sweating and we're hot, and we're like, my hair was going this way and that way, and my brother was cracking up. But I realized that I'm willing. This is why I'm telling you this. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that my mother or anybody that I love knows that I'm going to take care of you as well as you would take care of yourself. And I don't mind putting my own fatigue on the back burner to ensure that you have what you need to feel safe, to feel comfortable, to feel loved. That is the definition of love, right? We may clash sometimes, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to minimize what you need from me. I'm going to make sure that I uphold that. And so that was the kind of love that I learned this weekend, helping and supporting my mom. But that's the kind of love that we all need, right? So today is beautiful for that reason. But what if you don't have that? We're going to talk about this, okay? What if you don't have that? Research suggests that a lot of people do not have that real authentic love. And it most likely isn't something that they grew up with either. We think that parents and family dynamics or family members, close family friends, that we should all have a loving connection with another person. We just automatically assume that love and affection is there. But that's not the case. Some research suggests that love is really, and I hate to put this out here so soon in the live chat, but bear with me, okay? Because I'm going to balance this out as we go along. But some research suggests that the idea of love for a lot of people is fantasized. And the idea of love is based on some kind of psychological and cognitive need to feel this undeniable love, right? That most human beings rarely experience. With true and authentic love comes work, self-sacrifice, humility, courage, a willingness, right, to engage, giving something a try, being everything that other person needs you to be, not who you think you should be. A lot of people don't see it that way, though. A lot of people would rather see it as, that's my mom, that's my dad, boom, we love each other. That's not it, right? Because sometimes attachment is not possible. Sometimes childhood trauma doesn't allow you to feel loved, right? And if you are adopted or fostered, that makes it even worse sometimes, because now you're in the system. What a lot of other families and kids and teens who, may be treating you wrongly. Some adopted and foster kids go into homes, and I've had many of them in my practice. They go into homes and they're abused sexually, physically, emotionally, psychologically. So sometimes that ideal love between a parent and a child just doesn't happen. Sometimes also, here's another way to look at this. Sometimes also that unconditional love between a family member and a child, or a child and the parent, it can maybe start off at a young age, and kind of like some of the clients I see now, as the child gets older, that loving relationship kind of dissipates. Why? Because things get harder with teenagers, things get harder with young adults, things get harder with full-blown adults, right? And so it can sometimes be problematic for some parents to feel that they can have a relationship with you. So there's various ways to look at that. Now, when you're in a romantic relationship, we have to consider that there are myths to that as well, right? I mean, we're not talking about Cinderella, where she gets dressed for the ball and puts on her heels and her dress, and she tries to get to the ball, and she meets her Prince Charming there. That's not true, right? What may connect you with another person is an experience that is way different from Cinderella or Snow White, just to name a few Disney movies that kind of fantasizes this thing. So we have hence the title of this live chat, we have a wrong idea of what love is. And that drives Valentine's Day. I actually went into, and then I'm going to start dropping some terms. So be ready, guys. I actually went into a few stores today just to grab my mom some things. And as I'm in these stores, I'm like, why do I feel like this is Christmas? Everybody's standing all around me, and it's hot in the store, and I see different ones with balloons. I see different ones with, little small hearts with candy in there. And that's all wonderful and beautiful. But my question, as I'm looking around the store, as I'm standing in a line that's literally wrapped around a couple aisles, and I thought to myself several times in that line, should I just go? Should I just throw my cart over there and just go? Because the energy was like it was Christmas, But one thing I saw, and you guys tell me in the chat box if you feel this way, I saw the same level of frustration, anger, envy, hostility, road rage, disrespect that I see on a daily basis today. And I'm standing there in line, and I'm thinking, isn't this Valentine's Day? Isn't this whole day about selflessness and love and compassion? And I actually forgot it was Valentine's Day. Let me tell you, my brother woke me up this morning. He called me. He's like, "Hey, Tam, what's going on?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I've been running around all day," and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's Valentine's Day. Okay, that goes to show you how much I believe in this holiday. But I just don't believe it's true love, whether it's family love, romantic love, friendship love, whatever. I just don't think that this day encompasses that. This day encompasses a fantasy. So I totally forgot it was Valentine's Day. But I'm standing in this store, and I'm thinking, why are we here? Why are we still being hostile? Why are we still being rude? Why are we still being disrespectful? It's supposed to be a day of love. And I just don't think Valentine's Day really, people really grasp the idea of what this is. And it kind of causes them to put themselves out there on a limb, thinking that there's going to be love and change, and it's nothing of the kind. So here's what research, and I've seen this as well. Here's what research says, and then I'm going to go to the chat box. Here's what research says about the truth and the healthiness of love, and that is between a family, that is between a parent and a child, right? You're the adult child of your parent. That could be a situation with a friend, right? So we're talking about all relationships tonight. But here's what psychology says, and I've seen this too, about healthy love. Number one, there is an absence of a power differential. There's an absence of a power differential. I'm going to break that down. A power differential, and I've talked about it many times on this channel. A power differential means that there's one person here and there's another person here. Doesn't necessarily mean that you are less than. It sometimes means that there's somebody here who sometimes has a legitimate reason for being here. And in a sense, it puts you naturally in a lower position. So let's say you're an adult and you're on disability benefits. You only get $500 a month, right? You may live with your mother and your father as an adult. While you're living with this parent, you're here in the power differential and your parents are up here. Why? Because mom and dad worked hard for many years in their business and they have thousands of dollars saved up. You're in their home, right? Living and trying to make life work for you while you are receiving disability, right? So naturally you're here. Naturally, your parents are here. What research says about true and lasting love between, two people of any kind, whatever relationship it is, that there is an absence of a power differential. That is why when it comes to therapists, you may have gone to a therapist. A lot of you share with me that you have. You may go to a therapist and find yourself quite appeased by or attracted to your therapist, or like what happens in my practice, you may have little kids say things like, I wish you were my mom. Most of the kids that come and see me for therapy, they love to hug me. They love to sit next to me. Sometimes if they are really little, I'll cuddle up with them and we'll read a book about manners and things like that. And I've had a lot of kids over the years say, Miss Tamara, I wish you were my mom, or Miss Tamara, you remind me of a nice aunt, And so that touches my heart. But here's the power differential. The client has to kind of be here naturally because you're coming to me for help. I'm not your mommy. Although sometimes I'm like, I would love to be your mommy because you're such a sweetie. The reality is I can't be your mom. So you are here with me and I kind of have to be here with you as the professional who's going to protect the dignity of this relationship, right? I can't misuse you. And so a power differential, an absence of it says, I'm not trying to lord over you. I am not trying to be at a certain level with you. I am not trying to put you in a lower position than me. As a matter of fact, we are equals. And that equal relationship, whether it's a parent-child, romantic marriage, whatever, that relationship says my needs, my thoughts, my feelings, my beliefs, my fears, all of that is equal to that other person. So there's no power differential. There is also the relationship of cognitive and affective empathy. I talk about it all the time, right, guys, on this channel, that cognitive empathy says, I actually have an idea as to what it is that you want from me. I also understand cognitively how this situation may have hurt you. Right. I also understand cognitively how you could have a fear of abandonment because you never had a good attachment with your mom. Affective empathy says, I actually feel what it is that's happening to you, right? I actually feel what it is that you need from me. So there's a relationship between affective and cognitive empathy, and that is healthy, right? If you only have one and not the other, it can be a little bit confusing. But if you have both of those things, research and psychology suggests that that is the healthy thing. There is also an absence of coercive control. Coercive control, we all know what that is, right, guys? But I'm just going to throw this out here. It really deprives you of your freedom because you are held bound in that relationship by a fear, by a worry, by a concern, and you don't want to deal with it, or you want to minimize its ugly head when it raises. So what do? Well, the coercive control that you're under, whether that's by a parent, a spouse, a friend, that coercive control says, you know what? You're going to do what I want you to do or else. And so living under that can really make you feel detached, unloved, depressed, manipulated, triangulated. The list just goes on, right? So there's often an absence of coercive control. Let me say in this category, as we're talking about coercive control, and then I'm going to go to the chat box. Anytime I have to do therapy with a young woman or even a young man, who, it's mainly women that I see though, but sometimes I'll have young men, and they're in a relationship with someone, and that coercive control is so visibly apparent. They can't move to the left or they're going to get pushed back in place. They can't go this way or they're going to get pushed back in place. It's like every move you make is a problem in a relationship where there's coercive control. Excuse me. And what I've noticed, getting a dry throat, give me 1 second. What I've noticed, excuse me, what I've noticed in these kind of relationships is the prisoner, okay, who is being held captive by a narcissistic person or a person with absolutely no empathy. That person says, you know what? Oh, I would never say that, or I would get in trouble. Or they may say something like, I have to be home by 8 o'clock because he's going to get so upset. Or in a relationship where there's coercive control, they may say, if you try to take the kids from me, I'm going to frame you and I'm going to take you to court. And what does that do? That causes you to kind of fall in line with that person because you don't want those consequences. You may have this as well with a parent, a narcissistic father who's all about image, right? And he threatens you that if you go anywhere in this neighborhood and talk about this family and I find out about it, I'm going to have your car repossessed. I'm going to skip a payment on your phone. The list goes on, right? And so it deprives you of your freedom and control. And that is horrible. One last thing before I go to the chat box, that in a equal loving relationship with a parent, a spouse, a friend, the most important part of the puzzle is this, that you share values, you share respect, you share boundaries, right? And you share goals. And this is what psychology backs as a very healthy thing. When you can share those things, you can kind of weather any storm, right? Because we both are aware of each other, and we're both very much aware of what my needs are, what your needs are, and how to make this work. We don't come up against each other. Why? Because we're compromising, we're communicating, and we are also committing. And those are actually called the 3 C's of a healthy relationship, whether that's in your family, a romantic relationship, whatever. The 3 C's of a healthy relationship is commitment, communication, right? And compromise. I had to think about it for a second. And compromise. With those 3 things at the core, you're likely to have a little bit of a healthier relationship. But in toxic relationships, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Okay, so let me give you just a rundown of what we're going to talk about, guys. Really, what we're talking about tonight is the wrong idea of love, whether that's in a family, in a romantic relationship, or with a friend, a coworker. We need to talk about, and I think we also need to highlight that Valentine's Day is beautiful, but let's not get so submerged in the commercialism that we completely ignore the reality that relationships are work, Relationships are work, and you both have to put up energy. A father has to put up energy. A husband, a wife has to put up energy, and it can be very tiring, I'm also going to give you some common traits of a healthy relationship that psychology has highlighted. I also want to give you some information on a research study that focused on at least 10 myths of relationships that we need to be looking at and talking about. And then I'm going to talk about the emotional impact on you. It may not have been easy for you to have a relationship with mom or dad, or to have a relationship with your sister or your cousin or your niece. And that over time can take a relational toll on you. We're also going to talk briefly about love addiction, because that is also something that can pop up if you've been in a family where there's no true love, if you've been in a relationship like that. Okay, so let's get to it. I see Phoenix. Phoenix is like 100 times 100. Okay, we're gonna get there. Let me just welcome you guys and see what you guys are saying and look for comments. Caitlin Brown, hello. I'm so glad you're looking forward to this conversation. This is good. Okay, sorry guys, my brother just texted me. Really? While I'm on YouTube? I'm going to get him after this live chat. No, I'm just kidding. Caitlin Brown, welcome. Thank you so much. I'm so glad about that. And I'm glad to be back with you guys. I really am. Jessica J, thank you so much for that kindness and that love. And thank you. Yep, she's right upstairs, taking it easy, waiting on me to get done with this so we can have a little bit of a weekend. Doing so much better. Thank you so much for that. Okay, James McDonald, hello. Yeah. Yeah. He says, glad to join you all on this live chat after a difficult week. Yeah, absolutely. It was a difficult week for me too. It was a little bit of a forced week, you know those weeks where you get up and you're like, okay, so time to go deal with what I don't want to deal with, I get you. Bossy Truthy 15, hello, welcome. Glad to see you. Longevity Rituals, hello, welcome to you. Longevity Rituals says, thank you, Tamara, for bringing into awareness of family pitfalls. Peace and blessings, everyone. Yeah, same to you. Thank you for that. She prays. Good to see you. Welcome, Dawn One. Hello and welcome. Happy Valentine's Day to you as well. Thank you so much. She is feeling better. I said to my mom, and you guys tell me in the chat box if you want her to. I'm like, Mom, you have to go on my channel. I'm going to pull you into a live chat because my mom is so wise, and she knows a lot about spiritual things and theology and relationships. And she probably should have been a psychologist herself, but I think you would love talking to my mom. I think you would kind of feel like these loving feelings of a grandparent, when you sit up under them and you just listen to their stories. So let me know if you wanted to come on one day. I'm so happy to show her that and maybe get her on. A Seat at the King's Table with Tanisha. Hello. Thank you so much for that. You guys don't know, your prayers were just so strengthening. I'm sitting in the hospital, watching my mom sleep and doing paperwork, and I see all of your comments come in, and I'm just scrolling and scrolling. So I'm so grateful. Thank you. Give it a think. Hold on. Not tonight, YouTube. Not tonight. Give it a think. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Welcome back. Sun and Sunflowers. Hello. Mark Lee. Hello. And Juby Joe. Hello. Welcome to the three of you. Thank you so much for that. Michelle Lynn. Thank you so much. I'm going to show her this when we log off. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, James. Thank you, Michelle. Sylvia Love Jones. Hello. Welcome. She's doing so much better. Every day is a walk that is stressful, but I see the change. So thank you. Thank you, Mark Lee. I see your other comment. Yeah, she sure is. She was so happy. She was so happy. She loved flirting with the male doctors. And let me tell you, I didn't know my mom had that side of her. Any of the male doctors that would come in, she would be like, oh, aren't your eyes beautiful? And then she would take a nap and go back to sleep. And then another male doctor would come in because she had at least 5 doctors on her case. And another male doctor would come in and she was like, oh, you're so beautiful. I'm like, Mom, what is this? Maybe it's too much high blood pressure medication. Can you guys drop that a little bit? I'm just kidding. I'm trying to make you laugh a little bit. My friend Shmita, hello and welcome. Good to see you. My friend Shmita says, when family goes into the hospital, our world and our calendar stops, doesn't it? That is such a therapeutic thing to say. Are you offering sessions? Because I could use one. I mean, your whole world stops, doesn't it? And they go on to say, and that is a deep kind of beauty. Yeah. That's beautiful. I like that. Starburst. I love your screen name. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Okay, looking for comments, guys. I'm gonna get there. Bear with me. Dragon Man Assassin, hello and welcome. I'm so glad to see you and welcome back. Give It a Think says, it's true that people have different definitions of love. I very much agree with that. And most definitions of love has a lot to do with how you were raised. That's really where it originates. Research in psychology suggests this, that not only is the same gender parent the most important parent in the child's life, right? So dad is the most important person in the son's life. Mom is the most important in the mother's life. Not only is that true, but here's what's also true. That attachment, a healthy idea of relationships, the maneuvering of thoughts, feelings, and emotions in relationships all starts in infancy, right? I say this all the time on the channel. that as soon as a baby is born, as soon as they are birthed, there's a reason why the nurses take the baby, okay, once the baby's delivered, and they place the baby on mom's chest, right? Skin to skin contact. Why? Because the brain, our neurons, right, and our emotions, all of that responds to that skin to skin contact. There's something scientific about that. And there's often something scientific about a baby coming into the world for the first time and being connected with mom and dad, right? And so that's actually where attachment begins. And then over time, attachment is built through, sometimes changing the baby, hugging the baby, kissing the baby, playing with the baby. It's all part of attachment. And so research suggests that that is exactly where it begins. And if it doesn't happen in a healthy way, then we suffer the challenges and the changes and the consequences later in life, And so sometimes different definitions of love are the result of that experience in and of itself. This is going to get me. TZ Yin Yang 101. We're going to go with that. Forgive me if I got it wrong. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Okay. Starburst, you're so sweet. Thank you for saying that. Starburst says, beautiful Tamara, do you think it's that's a whole other live chat. Starburst, that's a great question. I would say it depends on who you are, who they are, and it depends on your life experience. I'm going to leave it at that, because if I open the door, Starburst, we're going to be here another 5 hours. So we might come back to this. Okay, that's a really good question. I like that a lot. NW, hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. NW says, hey Tamara, I find myself in a place where I can't stand certain people. I can't stand other people. I'm over their low lifestyle. Even the voice make me feel yuck. Their behavior made me look at it this way. Oh, I don't disagree with you at all. Some people can act out in such a way that, okay, it's not in here. Some people can act out in such a way that it turns you off, right? I'm like that too. Whatever you say to me, whatever you do around me, how you treat me, how you even relate to me, it can turn my buttons completely off. And I will slam the door, because you're not considering what you're doing and what you're doing to me. So in that case, I feel I have the right to slam the door. Should people have forgiveness, NW? Absolutely. Do we make mistakes? We're not perfect, so we have to give second chances. 100%. But I'm with you on that. Some people, if you're over them 100%, sometimes you have to push them over there and keep moving, right? Bossy Truthy 15 says, Tamara, you need to talk about fake feminists. The wrong ones are in this business. Well, we might, if I want to be political. However, I will agree with you that this business can, attract a variety of people to it, and they're not always healthy people, right? James McDonald makes a good point. Bear with me, guys, and we're going to go back to the content. James McDonald makes a good point. He says, my mom would love me if it suited her needs. Yeah. Some people are like that. They will love you as long as they can get something from you. They can manipulate you. They can feel empowered by you, or in some fashion, they're going to benefit now or down the road. And so that means love on condition, right? It's totally far from unconditional love. Okay. One last comment. Mark Lee, and then we're going to go to the chat. We're going to go back to the content. Excuse me. Mark Lee says, love is also getting down in the dirt and working till you're exhausted in every way. Oh, tell me about it. Oh my God. Mark Lee, you hit the nail on the head. Mark Lee goes on to say, loving a child often means that they never know what you did for them. Them growing up is your reward. Ooh, we got a poet on the channel or some kind of like deep philosophical thinker. I very much agree with that. I can look back on my own childhood and say, wow, my mom sacrificed this, sacrificed that, you know? And even caring for my mom this past week at the hospital, I was literally tired. I would, and I'm sharing this just to give you a human look at me, even as a therapist, and kind of relate to you. But I remember walking down this long, dark hall in the hospital around a couple of bends and corners with 5 bags on my shoulder. My brother just had to skip out and leave for work. He's tired. He doesn't ever sleep. My younger sibling was held up with work. And I'm walking through the hall. I get on the elevator, walk down another hall. I'm told that door is locked. So then I walk way across on the other side of the hospital. And I literally put all the bags in the trunk, got in the driver's seat, and I can feel tears going down my face. Why? Because I'm tired. I love my mother. She's the only mother I've ever known. And she sacrificed a lot for us children, right? However, it doesn't mean I'm not tired. So you're very much right about that. And I think my mom and a lot of other moms have had the experience of, this is my child and I'm going to fight for them. And if that means I have to get cut and pushed and beat up and talked down to and manipulated, I'll do it just for the sake of my child. And so, Mark Lee, I think you put this as succinctly as you could. I'm going to star your comment in the chat box because that's really what this conversation is all about. One last hello, and then actually 2, I lied. Nancy R, welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Nancy R says both parents incapable of true love, so there was no attachment for me. Absolutely. And some are really incapable of true love. Sammy D, you're my last one before we go back to the content. Hello and welcome. Sammy says, glad I caught the live. I missed the notification for it. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Glad to see you. Let's get into the content. All right, guys. Here's what research says are often the tenets or the objectives or concrete pieces of very healthy relationships, romantic, mother-father relationship, parent-child relationship, whatever the relationship is. Research in psychology says that these are the healthy pieces. The number one thing that I found in the research was trust and respect. Those two went together. Trust and respect. You got to have it, right? Without trust, I don't want to open up. Without trust, I'm not going to really allow you to love me, and vice versa, because I don't trust you, right? So you got to build that trust. A parent that has never done right by you, or a parent who has always been narcissistic or cold or callous, right? They break your trust. And that's why later in life you have this, or you may have this fear of abandonment, you know, because you haven't been able to trust in the most important relationship, which is that relationship with a parent, you know? So respect and trust. The other is healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries is important. Compromise, right? Communication and being able to make decisions without, this is the key word, without retribution, right? Have you ever been, in a relationship where you wanted to make a decision, but your spouse said no, right? And in your heart, you knew it was the right decision. In your heart, you knew that that's what you needed to do, but you allowed that spouse to talk you out of it and it didn't end well. Or have you been in a situation with your parent or parents to where you needed to make a decision for you and you made the decision and there was retribution. There were negative consequences to that. Parents don't talk to you anymore. Parents don't believe you're responsible anymore. You know, parents go and tell your business to everyone. Making a decision without retribution is love. If you're going to make a decision, I'm going to share with you that I may not agree. I'm going to share with you that I'm not really okay with this. And I'm also going to try to make a very clear, concrete argument for why I don't believe this is the right way. And then I have to let go and let you process your situation the way that you're going to process it, you know? And so some situations involving toxic love or dysfunctional family dynamics where love is not even at the core of anything, you know, you may find that you make a decision and you are sorely punished for it. And there's no coming back from that. You've now been labeled something, right? The scapegoat, the black sheep, the rebellious, the cold-hearted, the sociopath, the psychopath, the borderline, right? The crafty, manipulative one. You're labeled, and then you get treated as if that label is you, just because of making a decision. So research in psychology suggests that, you should be able to make those decisions and do so without retribution or being held so liable that there's no forgiveness and there's no freedom. Let me also say that there needs to be an expression of healthy emotion. There needs to be an expression of healthy emotion. Yes, we can all slam doors and throw things and stomp and act like a child. We can all get online and go to Facebook and go to Instagram and go to YouTube and type up things to indirectly or directly impact somebody in a negative way. But is that really the way that it should go? Probably not. We have the right to keep our family stuff back here, right? And we also have the right to say, you know what, I'm not going to respond in this way. I'm going to hear this person out. I'm going to try to work this out, but I am also going to make sure you understand how I feel. That's respectful, right? So in a loving relationship, there has to be a healthy expression of emotion, not intimidation, not coercive control. The list goes on, right? I also, and tell me what you guys think of this, I also found in some of the research that a lot of people know exactly what healthy love is. A lot of people know what boundaries are, but they don't exercise it or experience it. And I'm not quite sure what that is. And there's not a lot of research on why that happens. And that's kind of depressing, right? You know what love should be. You have a little bit of an idea. And you also know what a healthy communication is, but it's not utilized. And so research in psychology is still trying to find out why that is. Why does this happen? We know what it is cognitively, but when it comes to being in the situation, there's often domestic violence. There's often, or what we call intimate partner violence. There's often toxic family dynamics. There's toxic love. There's lack of boundaries. There's manipulation, right? There's narcissism, cold and callous behavior. We know those are all wrong things, but why do we continue in some form or fashion to connect with people like this, to not walk away and say goodbye? Right? I don't know. And neither does psychology. We're still trying to figure it out. The last thing in this category, guys, is nurturance of a bond. Nurturance of a bond. A parent and a child has to nurture that bond. The parent nurtures the bond until the child gets up to adolescence and sometimes adulthood. And then they can kind of pull back a little bit. They're not nurturing the bond as much, because the relationship has now become reciprocal, but in some situations, and I'll say most situations, not some, most situations, the emotional bond between you and that other person has to be nurtured over time. And nurturing could be, I'm there for you when you need me. Nurturing could be, I'm going to tell you what I think is good and what you're doing that's good, and I'm going to support you in that, right? Nurturance of a bond is, I'm going to tell you the truth. You're not going to like the truth, but I have to tell you the truth, right, guys? So that nurturance of a bond is essential. Once you have that person, your mom, your dad, your boss, your coworkers, your romantic partner, and it looks like things are working, now you have to nurture that bond, and that means putting in some energy, putting in some time, right? Unfortunately, in toxic family dynamics or in toxic relationships or in situations where there's toxic love, that doesn't happen. Now, one last thing before I go back to the chat box, and then I'm going to give you the rest of the content. One last thing, which is a researcher who did a study in 2003. I'm going to say 2013, but 2003. There's a researcher who did a study on the myths of love. And here's what he says that he believes are all a myth, and we need to learn how to think differently. The first thing he pointed out is, in a romantic relationship, some people say, that's my better half over there, right? Yila, who is the researcher of this study, he says, no, that's not true. You may not be in a relationship with your other half, or your better half, I should say. You may be in a relationship with a complete sociopath. That's not your better half, right? So he shot that down. He feels like that's a myth. Another myth is exclusiveness. There's other people in that person's life that's important. It's not just you. So he says sometimes we're kind of in this diluted state, right? And we believe that equivalence is important and it's happening when it really isn't. Having a better half is happening when it really isn't. He says the five love languages, if I can speak, that's false. This researcher shot that down as well. Fidelity shot that down as well. Doesn't believe that fidelity is something that can be lived out. I disagree with that. I think you can be trustworthy and you can show fidelity, but he doesn't believe that you can. He thinks the idea of marriage is a myth. Okay. He also thinks eternal passion is a myth. Okay. And omnipotence, that we believe that our loved one is wherever we are. He believes that that's a myth as well. And so he calls all of these myths because he says there's different forms of these categories, right? And there's different forms of love. And so he says, but when you hold all of these myths in your mind and you think that this is what it is, and you think that love is one specific way that it isn't, you fall into what is called love addiction. And we're going to get into that just a little bit when I come back from the chat box. Who knows about love addiction? Have you been there before, where your mind is kind of like, you have this ruminating, obsessive process in your mind, right? And you're constantly looking for Mr. Right, Mrs. Right, close friends, close family ties. This may not work, and that it isn't working, and it never has worked, right? But in some very interesting way, the mind kind of trails off, and then you begin to obsess and ruminate. And so really what you're doing is strengthening that concept of love, which is often false or fantasized. And so that's where we get the term love addiction. Okay, I'm going to go back to the chat box, guys, and just engage you a little bit more. I'm going to give you just a little bit of research, and then I'm going to highlight the emotional impact that this has on you. Okay. And what we're going to talk about tomorrow, because I think you're going to like it a lot. Okay. Brooklyn Kappa 1. I hope I said that correctly. Hello. It looks like you're happy to see a live chat. I'm happy to be back with you guys. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Cheyenne, happy Valentine's Day to you too. Hello. Good to see you. Juby Joe says, still have the picture of me holding the rusty paring knife at age 10, was already playing 2 instruments and getting all A's. Wow. I saw you earlier, Juby Joe, talking about, I don't want to scroll back because I feel like I'm going to mess this up if I do. But I want to go back to your original comment. I will probably do that after this live chat. Sammy says, Tamara, I hope your mom is on the mend. Thank you so much. She is. And I'm going to show her all your messages now that she's on the mend. Thank you so much. Phoenix, hello and welcome. Always good to see you in a live chat. Chill Mill, good to see you. Welcome. Chill Mill says, I can see that. Happy Love Day. They are trying to fill a void. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Valentine's Day should be a reflection of selflessness. It should also reflect kindness, not just today, but tomorrow and the next couple of days and years and months, right? And I also think, that Valentine's Day should encompass the nurturance of a bond, right? We're already in a position with each other. Let's nurture that, and let's not nurture that by buying a bunch of balloons and buying 900 million, cards with hearts on them. Let's nurture by having a conversation, by spending time together, by eating dinner together, by laughing together, watching a movie, growing together, right? Maybe shopping together, whatever. Let's nurture this bond. I really do think that's what Valentine's Day should be. Yeah. Caitlin Brown says, we never deserve to be treated as burdens. I very much agree with that. Chill Mail, he feels like, he's resonating with some of this. He says, true love has no power differential. It doesn't. No. And my mom reminds me of that too, because she reminds me of this because there are times when she will say things like, I picked your phone. This is an example. I picked your phone up and I put it over there, but I didn't look at it. or she'll say, I think this is your mail. And she'll hand it to me without even looking at it. And in a sense, I see my mom trying to maintain the dignity or the respect between the two of us. I've seen her do that more so with my brothers. And her stance is this, that yes, I am your mother. Yes, I've raised you, diapered you, powdered you, everything else. But I love you in a sense that I want you to know I respect your space. And so because of that, that's your mail. Here you go. I didn't look at it. And so that kind of levels the playing field. There's no power differential there at all. GB Joe says, I'm crying for all of us to understand that we do matter and we are going through this together. Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Michelle Lynn says, I'll be 44 this month, and I honestly don't believe I've experienced true unconditional love. Wow. Yeah. Let me throw out here, I think, and this may be helpful to you to kind of re-examine if you've ever experienced unconditional true love or not. Number one, you almost have to ask yourself, do I really know what that is, right? I have some idea, but is my idea of what unconditional love is fantasized? And if that's the case, then I need to step back a few notches and consider that maybe true love is something else, right? Maybe true love is holding that door open for that elderly person who's trying to walk as fast as she can, but she's literally going 5 miles per hour just trying to get into the grocery store, right? Is unconditional love the joy and the comfort of hugging a baby and talking to a baby and really being special in the eyes of that baby, right? Is that true unconditional love? So you really do have to pause and ask yourself, what has been my experience? And I've had those experiences, I once, I was shopping in a store with a family member, and I'm looking in the toy aisle because, of course, I have a practice where I see children, teens, and families. So I'm always adding to my play therapy room. But, I'm looking at these things on the shelf, and just the cutest little button, okay, with the prettiest blonde hair. She's just standing there, looking at the shelf with me. And she asks me, do you know who Marvel is? Do you know Marvel? And I looked down at this little innocent sugar lump, and she's like, do you know Marvel? And I says, no, I really don't. I mean, I know Spider-Man is somewhere in there. And so she laughed, and you want to know something, guys? We spent a good 8 minutes standing there talking about Marvel, and I loved it. I loved it. And she hugged me at the end of that conversation. Her mom was in shock, and I just remember thinking, I feel loved. She doesn't know who I am. Right? She doesn't know what I do for a living. She doesn't know she was talking to a therapist. And the unconditional pieces of that love was that she was just drawn to me and vice versa. And that was enough, so not trying to be sappy here with you guys, but just trying to throw out there that sometimes we have to alter our view of what unconditional love is in order to experience it. And having that little sweet sugar lump stand next to me and teach me things about something I typically don't care about was wonderful, because she drew my attention and it caused me to look a little bit closer. Who is this little person, So that may help, Michelle. Let me know if it's helpful. But changing our view of unconditional love can sometimes show us, yeah, we have experienced it. Maybe not in the way that we thought. JKD Merit Master Group, hello, good to see you. Welcome. Ronald Zion, good to see you. I'm glad you made it. Welcome. James McDonald says, we have a society that lacks a lot of self-love, and sadly, that often plays out in inappropriate ways, including road rage and violence. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's part of it. Part of it. Yeah, absolutely. I find that people who have road rage tend to be narcissists. They just do. Gary Bennett, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Gary Bennett says, parents that have more kids because they want them to be what they couldn't achieve, that is, go to university to become lawyers or doctors. Parents that have more kids because they want them to be what they couldn't achieve. I wouldn't be surprised. Sometimes I wonder why some women go on to have 5 kids, 6 kids, 7 kids, 15 kids, like one is enough. Okay. One is enough. And some people just continue on in that. And I'm going to be honest, I just I don't get it. I'm with you, Gary Bennett. Give It a Think says you must love another so that person feels free. I love that quote. You must love another so that person feels free. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you feel like that with your adult parents? As an adult child, do you feel that way? As a relationship partner, do you feel that way? I don't know. You have to ask yourself. Let me just also throw in here that one of the reasons I stayed by the bedside of my mom, or I stayed in the recliner in the hospital room, to allow the staff, number one, to know that I am here around the clock. You're never going to not see me here. That's number one. Number two, I want to make sure that you treat my elderly mother with dignity and respect. And I feel you're going to do it if I'm watching you. Not that I don't trust you, but I know how tiring nursing is. I know that some nurses are incompetent. I know some nurses can be inexperienced. I know they're young and excited to kind of flex their professional muscles. And so they end up making a lot of mistakes, And so I wanted to be there, and I wanted my mom to be able to close her eyes and sleep knowing that my daughter is over there doing her paperwork, and I don't have to worry about somebody that I don't know standing over me, giving me a medication I'm not clear on, whatever the case may be. My goal, and I'm getting at your point, Give It a Think. My goal was to ensure that she understood you can sleep and rest in peace. You don't have to rest with a defense. You don't have to rest believing that you're going to be hurt. Just rest, because I'm on the lookout, right? That's exactly what your quote is getting at. And I love that. Okay. Gary Bennett, thank you so much for that. She's feeling much better. Thank you. Thank you. Phoenix says, I love you so much, Tamara. Thank you. I love all of you. I do. Phoenix says, I would have so been one of those kids, but my mama, Dukes, would have been too and is watching with me. Yeah. I love when kids feel the natural need to hug me. That says a lot. That means I trust you. Hold on, guys. I have to check this, okay? It's my alarm system. Okay, we're good. Okay. All right, let's keep moving, guys. And then I'm going to go back to the content for you. NW says, I can't do fake. I'm good. I can't do fake, so I'm good. Yeah, same here. Just be genuine, right? Just be yourself. Yeah. Okay, a couple more comments, and then we're going to go back to the content. Ronald Zion says, Tam, is that the same as love obsessive disorder? Yes, it is. Love addiction, love obsessive disorder. Really what happens in love addiction and love obsession is your mind kind of ruminates. It goes on this cyclic pattern of just thinking about what love is and what it isn't, and how to get it, and how to, secure it, and how to make it happen, and who to contact. And, should I go on a dating site, which I hate? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it's like this constant energy that the person is kicking up to try to get what it is that they may never get. I tell my clients all the time, number one, you may not want to consider a dating online site. I just find it to be very forced. And that doesn't need to be the case, right? If you're going to care about somebody or love somebody, it's going to happen naturally, right? And so you don't need to go on a dating site. So that's one thing I tell my clients. The other piece of this puzzle is I tell my clients, if you continue to fantasize about love, you're going to get to a place where you don't really know what it is, right? If you fantasize about parental love, if you fantasize about romantic love, if you fantasize about love as, being in a friendship, you're going to get to a place where everything in your mind is a fantasy. And because of that, you're not going to really know what to look for, because all the fantasy that's gone on in your mind, as in love addiction and as in love obsessive disorder or love obsession, you're going to be so crowded by all of those lies that you won't have the capacity to know when it's standing right there, right? And so, yeah, that's basically love obsession and love addiction. It's this constant just rumination, and some people go so far as to ask friends, do you have any single friends? Or sometimes within a family, you will get family members try to force themselves on you and say, can I spend the night with you? Can you loan me some money? Can we talk every day? You don't text me enough. All of those things are problematic. It's not healthy. So yes, that's my short answer. Cam, hello and welcome. I so appreciated your comment yesterday. And oh, that's my mom's TV. I'm like a parent with a baby who cries. You know how you have, like, what do you call those things? Baby monitors. I feel like I need a baby monitor. Sorry, I got distracted by sound upstairs. But thank you, Cam. Your comment was so sweet and humbling. Thank you so much. And she is safe at home. Tiffany Lorani, I'm going to say that until you correct me. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Says, I'm left in the dark, my life. Can you expound upon that? Because I have some thoughts about that. Let me know if you want to. I can pick and pull that apart for you. GB Joe says, retrospectively, when we were born makes a difference in our challenges. You mean the experiences that we have, GB Joe? If so, yes. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. NM, hello, welcome. Good to see you. Okay, a few more comments, guys, and then we are going to go back to the content. Phoenix says, me and my mother, are two, even though it doesn't always seem like it. Did I read that right, Phoenix? Did I? Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna move on and wait on you to correct me if I have that wrong. NW, thank you so much for that. Yes, I agree. When you get to a place where you realize that doctors and nurses can't save your loved one, you get on your knees and start praying. Why? Because you don't want to lose that person that you love so deeply, and you don't want to lose that thing that has given you the courage to stand and the motivation to stand, right? So when you realize, Nurse Cameron over there and Dr. BG over there can't save my loved one, then that's when you go into spiritual mode, right? And you should do that on the regular anyway, but that is where you start saying, I've got to have something that's bigger than me. And it certainly isn't a doctor. Thank you for going to school all those years. Thank you for having that motivation, but you're not enough. And once you realize that, life gets scary, right? Cam says, yes, would love to see your mom. You speak so highly of her. Thank you so much. She's wonderful. She would become a YouTube mom to all of you. Let me just say. You're not going to want to let her go. She would take over my entire channel. So I have to think about that one. Okay. One more person, then I'm going to go back to the content. Jessica J says, I was super close to my mother and vice versa. Dad was jealous of our relationship and harbored resentment towards me as a child growing up. Absolutely. Sometimes that happens. And that is not your problem, Jessica J. That is his. And I hope you know that in your heart of hearts, that anytime there's a jealous, envious father, that's his problem. He should have went to therapy, because there's a difference between a loving relationship between he and his wife, or he and his girlfriend, and a loving relationship between you and your mom. Those are two different kinds of love, and she needed both, right? And so dad probably should have went over there and got him some help, because that's not okay. That's not okay. Oh, Phoenix. Okay, you're my last one. Then I'm going to go back to the content. Phoenix, you're so sweet. And I've missed all of you. Okay. All right. You ready? Let's do this last part of the chat. We talked about love addiction. We talked about love obsession. Let me give you a research study that I found interesting. Tell me if you feel this way as well. There was a research done in 2010 by a researcher. His last name is Furr. And I'm going to make sure that I put his research study in the chat box for you. But what he says in this research study is this, that he believes that loving relationships between friends, parents and their children, their adult children, and even in romantic relationships, he says he believes that there are problems in our ideas of what love truly is. And that can cause us to kind of elevate our emotions so high because we have this ideal mindset of love, right? And so that ideal mindset of love kind of takes us way up, right? It makes us a little excited and a little happy and a little bit glad that we have this idea floating around in our mind about what this thing is. But here's reality. Reality is you don't necessarily feel like that in everyday life, right? And you don't necessarily feel like that when battles come your way and challenges come your way. And so what Furr says is this, that these kind of fantasies are often misleading. He highlighted that in his research. He says these ideas are misleading. They are completely absurd. They're fictitious. I'm not trying to depress you guys, I swear. They are irrational, okay? And they are 100% impossible to achieve. I'm going to go over that one more time. He says, this is the problem, and this is why we're often hurt. This is why we're often in a fantasy about what love really is. This is why we are often crushed in a family situation where love just doesn't exist, because we have this ideal love in our mind. And he says that ideal love is misleading, it's fictitious, it's absurd, it's irrational. He says, and it's impossible to fulfill. And I couldn't agree more. You know, true love is true love, and it's going to show itself in the way that it's going to show itself. You don't have to have these thoughts up here, right, guys? And that is probably the healthier way. So what's the emotional impact on you if you haven't been in a relationship that's healthy, where you're in a situation where there's a power differential, there's somebody that stands on top of you? How is this going to impact you, right? In what ways is a dynamic like that going to impact you? Research, and I've also seen this, research suggests that you often grow into an adult where communication is really difficult. And I'm not talking just having a conversation with someone. I'm talking about the kind of communication that involves nonverbal communication, right? Body language, eye contact, your listening skills, your ability to process, your ability to kind of engage in double dutch. You guys know what that is, double dutch, jumping rope. You know how to wait on the other person, then you speak, right? You know how to support the person and what they're saying to you. Those are all very healthy communication skills. You're not monopolizing the conversation. You're humbly giving your opinion on something. These are all effective communication skills. But research suggests that if you haven't had an authentic, loving relationship with whoever's in your world or growing up, that effective communication can be really difficult. You're not going to know how to maneuver the different pieces of communication. There's also fear of abandonment. I'm afraid to let you go because you're never going to be here again, right? And sometimes there are drastic attempts at escaping from a fear of abandonment, meaning that there is this fear that if you walk away from me, life is not going to be good for me. So I'm either going to self-destruct so that I can end this when I feel strong, or I'm going to cling to you so tight that you don't feel like you can breathe. You don't feel like you can think. You feel like you are trapped, right? So over time, you develop a fear of abandonment, and it's not a healthy kind of communication in your relationships, because again, you either self-sabotage or you hold on too tight, and either way, you're going to lose something, right? There's also this inability to trust your own perspective, an inability to trust your own perspective. I see this all the time. Sometimes my clients will ask me things after experiencing years of complex PTSD, and excuse me, and they will say things like, I just don't know if that's really what was happening. Let me get some water, guys. Can you believe I'm still coughing? Excuse me. My goodness. Can you believe that, guys? I'm still coughing. That little boy that hugged me that day, oh my God, his little embrace was so sweet, but I've had a hard time getting back up. Okay, so an inability to trust your own perspective. I've had clients that have said things like, I know we had this, conversation and went to this party with my dad, and all of a sudden, my dad starts making comments that makes me think that I'm saying the wrong things, that I'm not being a certain way. He even threw up that I was immature and childish. And so if you have that kind of tumultuous relationship with your parents, your relationship partner, whatever, it's very easy to start to doubt your own mindset, your own belief system, and your values, as well as your own perspective. And that is not a healthy thing. You may also have a deep-seated and unmovable fear of letting go. We have to we have to all have we have to have the ability as humans, I'll put it that way, to be in a relationship of any kind and hold on to that person when they're near us, right? And let go of that person when they have to go. And we have to be okay with that. But in some situations, if you've grown up under a parent who was constantly leaving you, constantly manipulating, constantly disappearing in your life, there was no consistency, you know, this was an abusive parent, whatever the case may be. Let's say you've grown up like that. You may develop over time a fear of letting go. And so the first safe person you find, what are you going to do? You're going to cling, and then you're going to cling some more, and you're going to cling some more without looking at the reality that, wait a minute, this is suffocating. And I've seen clients like that. And I've said, you know, in sessions, after it is agreed upon by me and my client that this is a problem, I will sometimes do like this in a nice way, you know, move over some. You don't have to sit on his lap, give him some space, you know. And sometimes, you know, sometimes the partner ends up right next to the spouse again. And I'm like, my God, this is gonna be a long session. But it's really a therapeutic way of saying you are safe, even when you are there. And even when you are close, when you are far, when you are close, you're safe. And that's a healthy thing. But you may find it really difficult to let go and allow that other person to have space. You may also have fear of emotional intimacy. And I think that's pretty explanatory. But let me highlight that emotional intimacy also includes being able to share, being able to talk, being able to say, this is my weak and vulnerable space, or being able to say, you know, I can share this with you, and you tell me your thoughts on this, and vice versa. If you have a fear of engaging with somebody like that, you're not going to get very far, right? Because everything is shallow at that point. You're not really sharing. You're not really understanding that this is a relationship where we actually need to talk, right? Suspiciousness and paranoia is likely to impact your life negatively. If you've been in a relationship where there's toxic love, or you've had a parent who's toxic in how they supposedly love you. So you can grow up being suspicious and paranoid. You may also, in a sense, fall prey to assumptions. And that makes other relationships difficult. You know, I'm assuming you don't like me. I'm assuming I messed this up. I'm assuming this is happening, right? And those assumptions can destroy a relationship. We can't assume. We really do have to know. So you may find yourself falling prey to assumptions. You may also have a fear of vulnerability. And so you avoid showing any kind of vulnerability. An example of that would be my self-disclosures on my channel. I know how far I want to go. I know how far I'm willing to go. And I also know how to protect the dignity of my family, right? Like my mom. I'm not going to tell her full story. I will tell parts of it, which is that she's a very healthy lady. She may be, 70, but she's a very healthy woman. She doesn't even look 70. She had a stroke that was out of nowhere. And this is the hardships, here's my thoughts on this, and I'm okay sharing that. So that's really allowing you to see me in my vulnerable space. But there are some people who hold back so much that they have this overly perfect facade, and you can't connect with that, right? And so you may find that you avoid being vulnerable because relationships in your life over time were always shallow. There was nothing intimate and emotional about the relationship whatsoever. Conflictual relationships and stormy relationships at the beginning and end is likely to happen as well. And this is really important. A lot of research on borderline personality disorder highlights, before I go back to the chat box and we wrap up, research on BPD highlights that usually there are relationships with the person with the condition or the disorder who has a lot of stormy relationships. And it's stormy at the very beginning, it's stormy in the middle, and it's stormy at the end. There's no smoothness or long periods of time where this person with borderline personality, not all, but the ones who fit this definition or the clinical definition, there hasn't been a time when there's been peace, because this individual has been jealous. This individual has had a fear of abandonment. This individual is impulsive. This individual has threatened suicide. This individual has threatened self-harm, right? This individual has triggered my jealousy. There's a lot of behaviors that can happen and stormy emotional connections. And you may find yourself the victim of that and have a really hard time believing that there's hope for a healthier relationship somewhere else, right? This is tricky. And I think the reason why a lot of you really enjoy this conversation is here we are at 8:16 p.m. Eastern time, wherever you guys are in your time zone. And we're talking about the psychology of Valentine's Day, that Valentine's Day is not just about romance. It's also not about chocolates. It's also not about how many balloons you can get, flowers you can deliver. It is about the psychology of boundaries, respect, dignity, cognitive and affective empathy, absence of a power differential, right? Equal values and morals and goals sometimes, or just equal goals. We may not agree, we may not believe the same things, but we can get ahead together in spite of that, right? And of course, you've got to have all those different attributes to the relationship, like trust and respect and healthy boundaries and things like that. So really, we're talking about the wrong idea of love and how to correct that idea. Now, tomorrow, guys, before I go back to the chat box, we're going to talk about something else. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about toxic family dynamics and the difficulty in setting boundaries and the reasons why. And we're not talking about boundaries like, don't call my house at 2 a.m. in the morning. We're talking about boundaries like, I really feel connected to this person. I don't want you to have anything to say about it. Some people are like that. I'm not, but some people are like that. Another boundary may be, I don't want you in my life because you're a problem, you're a challenge, you're intimidating, right? So how do you set that boundary for that situation? So we're going to talk about the unhealthy and toxic forms of boundaries within an unhealthy dynamic. So join me tomorrow. Okay, guys. Let's go back to the chat box. Oh, you know what? I wanted to read this to you. I'll do it at the very, very end. Okay. I'll do it at the very, very end. It's one little snapshot and I think it's going to be helpful. Mouse Swift. I probably messed that up. I'm sorry. Welcome. Good to see you. Says, glad to hear your mom is better. The real medicine, handsome doctors. Yeah. Right. Right. I didn't know she was like that. I'm like, okay, this is either the symptom of mixed emotions that can happen in stroke survivors, okay, or she really thinks these doctors are cute. And they would hold her hand and she would hold their hand and they're just talking away like they've known each other for 900 years. And I'm just standing on the side of the room and I'm like, oh, so that's how it's done. Okay. All right, Mom. Bryn Parr says, howdy, Miss Tam. Hello. Good to see you. Good to see you. Brianne D, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. You're not late. There's always the replay. Phoenix, thank you, thank you. M asks the question, what do people mistake love for? I think some people mistake love for, I'm trying to put this in a way that doesn't sound, I'm going to need to process this before I answer you. Okay, I think most people mistaken it for compatibility. Just because you're compatible doesn't necessarily mean that you're in love, right? You could just be compatible because sometimes you can be compatible with your friends or you can be very compatible with your siblings. It doesn't always mean that there's love there, right? The other thing I think a lot of people mistaken love for is affection and attraction, right? A lot of people think that, if I'm attracted to you and you're beautiful and I'm this, I'm handsome, that it can go into a deeper, better place. And sometimes that's not it either. But a lot of people mistaken love for being attracted to somebody else and being compatible. You have many people in the world who, as you're walking through the subway, riding the bus, driving your car, walking through a grocery store, whatever you're doing in your daily life, there are people that can compliment you. There are people who can stare at you. I've had males stare at me like, wow, she's beautiful, I'm not going to marry you. You know what I mean? I've also had requests for dates, right? Which I hate. So, and what I've done, I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I don't date, and so a lot of people think that if you have those bells and whistles, right? They want to date you, or they want to, spend some time with you, or, if they're staring at you and say you're beautiful or handsome, that means there's love, and that is absolutely not the case, right? Because again, we're talking about shared values and goals, cognitive and affective empathy. There's no power differential. We're talking about equality. There's compromise. There's communication. There's commitment, right? There's work. So that was a great question. We could just go on about that in a whole other live chat. But I think a lot of people mistaken love for things that it isn't, And I find young people do that the most, I'll get an adolescent in my office, and they'll be like, I'm so in love. And then guess what? 2 hours later, Miss Camera, he's not calling me back, So yeah. Phoenix says, I feel like your parent is your first true love. They are. That's why that relationship at birth is the most important. Yes, they are. Gary Bennett sums it up well. Safety is love. Very much agree. Very much agree. Juby Joe says, saw my newborn daughter in my home bed, work her body next to mine. Amazing. Oh, that's so sweet. That's so, so sweet. One time my late grandmother and I, we had to spend the night in a hotel, and we were going to a family member's college graduation. And I remember, okay. So I'm looking at you, Sammy. I'm going to come to you in just a minute, Sammy D. But I remember I knocked on I ran down the hall in my socks and pajamas, and I'm like looking, make sure nobody sees me. I knock on my grandmother's hotel door, and I'm like, I would call her Guy. I says, Guy, I'm calling her. And I start banging on her door. She comes to the door, okay, with her scarf in her face, her robe on, like she was really getting ready to have a spa day in her hotel room. And I said, can I please sleep in here with you? I don't want to stay in my brother's room with his wife and his children. I can't handle it. And she looked like, oh God. And she opened the door, let me in. And let me tell you, I had to be about 13. I slept so close to my Gaga, and I was just like this with her the whole night. And she's just on the edge of the bed, like, please give me some space. But, Juby Joe, that can say a lot, right? That means you're her safe place and she loves you. Sammy D, I just want to put this up here just to let you know that I'm acknowledging that. So thank you so much. I'm going to definitely send good vibes your way. All right, guys, I'm just going through. I don't want to miss any of you. I'm just going to put your comment up here, JKD Merit Master Group. Thank you for summarizing that. Okay. Lucas Smock, hello from Poland. Beautiful. I rarely get people from Poland, so welcome. Good to see you, and welcome to the channel. Gary Bennett says, pray you recover quickly. A shortage of hospital beds is the same in Australia. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there is a shortage of beds. It's hard to wrap your mind around, right, Gary Bennett? I'm with you on that. All right, guys, I'm going to just scroll through here. I love that you guys are talking to yourselves, talking between you guys. You're talking of yourselves to each other. Brian D says, love, I have no idea what it feels like besides my love for my kids. Yeah, I understand that. And that is also the scary part about love too, is you don't always know where it is or if it's there. You kind of have to let it play out so that you can understand what's going on. You also have to use a relationship that's healthy, like the one with your children, and compare all other relationships to that to see if you have the right idea of what love actually is, right? And sometimes love is just the strict experience of caretaking and supporting, right? That's kind of good to keep in mind, I think. Chill Mill says, typically, how long does it take to bounce back from the trauma of having abandonment issues? Honestly, I don't know if you can bounce back, and that's my personal and clinical opinion. I think that, when you're in a situation where you've been abandoned or hurt or harmed or traumatized, and abandonment is the symptom of being traumatized, I don't know if you can bounce back. Can you learn over time to develop trust and give somebody else the wheel for a while? You can, but you have to work at it, you know? And I also think if throughout your adult life you continue to experience abandonment, that's going to compound the abandonment that's already there. And so now you're going to have to relearn how to trust, right? So I'm not sure that you can kind of grow out of abandonment. I really do. Abandonment issues, I really do think that it's kind of stuck with you for the rest of your life. Like years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when I had my concussion, I'm still battling symptoms. And my neurologist is scratching his head like, what the heck? And so what he has started saying to me is, Tamara, you're working too much. And so you're not allowing your brain to heal. But kind of like my previous concussion 2 years ago, I'm still dealing with that. That's the consequence of the concussion. My one client has complex PTSD. That's the consequence of all the abusive relationships she's been a part of. Are we ever going to be able to kind of quote unquote grow out of those things? I don't think so. I think I'm going to be dealing with this for the rest of my life. I think my client's going to have complex PTSD for the rest of her life. We learn over time how to get better at coping, but that's about it. I hope that wasn't depressing, but that is the way that I continue to see that. Ronald Zion, thank you so much for the kindness and the super chat, and you're welcome. I just feel called to be a part of you guys. I'll put it that way. And so I'm so glad when you say that this is helpful and it's benefiting, you know? So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for the super chat. JKD Mayor Master Group says, it's like you're always trying too hard. It feels like you're on nerves for no reason when you had a weird toxic parent who split all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've been in sessions where an adolescent will say, Mom, can we do A, B, and C when we leave this therapy session? And the mother will say yes. Then the teenager will say something else and the mom will just snap, stop calling me. I've seen that. And I sit there and I'm like, that's not how that goes. I know kids can get on your nerves, but you decided to have them. And so they're just tapping your leg and saying, Mom, 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 And so to me, to your point, JKD Merit Master Group, to your point, your kids should not feel like a burden to you, right? And if they do, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Caitlin Brown says, story of my life, choosing my happiness over my parents' happiness meant suffering due to not appeasing parents' needs. Yeah, that's the case too sometimes. Yeah. Absolutely. I have a client like that. I do. And she wants to go to Stanford University. What does her mom want her to do? Stay in their hometown and go to their hometown's popular college. And, I see my client being pulled this way by mom, being pulled by Stanford, being pulled this way. She's actually going on a trip to Stanford this weekend. And I was so excited for her. And her mom just had to get in the middle of it and just create so much anxiety. So it's awful, right? And so sometimes making that decision of being okay with your own life and your own decisions, that can be a difficult thing when you're trying to appease your parents. But true love with parents would say, here's my reasons why I don't want you to do A, B, and C, but I'm going to still love you through it. I'm not going to abandon you, because that's not going to help matters either, right? Ellie Wen, good to see you. Always glad to see you. Welcome. Hopefully this is a helpful chat for you. Okay. Cam says, practicing boundaries can be hard for me because I don't want to be the problem. I guess my people pleaser habit. Yeah, I get you. I don't want to be the problem either, even as a therapist. So don't feel bad. I totally get that. That's what my mom said in the hospital. She's like, I don't want to be a burden to you and my other children, And I was just like, oh, Mom, you're not a burden, Okay. Hold on, guys. Bear with me. I am burning out. I feel myself like ready to fall asleep right on the Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Brianne D. I appreciate you. Yeah, she's doing a lot better. Thank you. Orlando, where have you been? Hello, good to see you, my friend. Mark Lee says, without fidelity, there is no real marriage. It's not complicated. Thank you for saying that. Thank you so much for saying that. Marriage to me is fantastic, right? Because what you're doing is saying, I am committed to you and only you. And I am your partner. I'm your team partner. I'm your encourager. I'm all of that, right? And so that to me is wonderful. But if you're going to have an open marriage, whatever that means, if you're going to step out of a relationship, if you're going to be a infidel, if you get a divorce, right? Because there's no constitution of marriage there. Like, why are we doing this? So, yeah, thank you for saying that. I wasn't going to address it, Mark Lee. I wasn't. You happened to bring it up, and you did it with so much class. Jasmina, hello and welcome. Good to see you. All right, one more comment, guys, or two more, and we get to wrap up. Chill Mill says true love is acknowledgement, appreciation for, and acceptance of a being. Oh man, you just had to spring that one on us, Chill Mill. That was good. Jessica J, thank you for that. That was really good. Jessica J says, Tamara, you have the most amazing mother. Yeah, I really do. If I can humbly say that myself, I know and miss my mother. She says, as she was loving and beautiful as your mother is, I'm happy for you. Thank you, Jessica J. And can I just say that that is true love as well, when you are happy for the happiness of somebody else? I think that's very important. And I've experienced that many times where you got into Stanford. Oh my God, I am going to celebrate for you, or you just got married this weekend and my heart just feels so happy. And so that's true love as well. Thank you very much, Jessica J. I do have a special mama, and that's a blessing, right? Because my dad, let me just share this with you because I've shared it before in the past. My dad was a veteran. He was also a musician. He traveled all over the world. There wasn't a country that he didn't go to, really. And he kind of abandoned me and my brother when I was 5. In that picture I posted in my community post last week, I was 5, and my mom and my dad were splitting up then because he made his travel around the world and his music career and being in the Army his God. And so with untreated PTSD and a lot of other things, he just fell out of our family. So it's wonderful when you can have at least one parent kind of say, you know what, you're all mine. I'm going to take you up. I'm going to raise you. I'm going to, right? That's unconditional love too. Forget dad. If he's not going to do his part, I'm going to do my part, Chris M, hello and welcome. Good to have you. Says people should research the sordid, violent history behind Valentine's Day, and people wouldn't so much stalk into that supposed holiday. Ooh, thank you for saying that. I didn't want to bring that up tonight either, but thank you for saying that. Yep. I agree. Michelle Lynn says, yes, Tamara, this is why I love your channel. Thank you so much. I didn't initially, why are my hands so dry? Sorry, guys. I didn't initially think of other kinds of love from others. I was thinking more along the lines of direct family and ex-boyfriends. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. I think a lot of people are on that track as well. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to put your comment up here, Brandy. Oh my God. No. Sometimes I hit the wrong button. I just know it's going to be over. Here we go. That's one of your comments, Brandy. And then here's your other comment. And Ronald Zion says, yes, you must protect your lives. Once in hospitals and assisted living, I don't trust them. Me either. Me neither. And I think it's really tough for therapists. I'm just going to throw this out here. I don't mean to disrespect anyone, but I do believe that I do believe that once you're a therapist, you get to do sessions with a variety of people. And I have seen people who want to become nurses, male and female. I've seen people who are nurses, male and female. And I have also seen people who are doctors, surgeons, right? General medicine doctors. I've even had dentists. And some of the ways that they think, behave, discriminate, harm, their unethical behavior that they share in sessions, all of that scares the life out of me. And when I have to place somebody in their care, which that doesn't mean Bob over there is going to be like Bill that came to therapy last week, who is performing surgery on somebody, but totally doesn't believe that he should be doing surgery on a Muslim, right? I had a Palestinian client, and his doctor was really being difficult with paperwork, facts, insurance claims, procedures. Why? Because he supposedly did not like Palestinians. And so his prejudice was coming through, and he was a surgeon. Can you imagine? And so this is not everybody, right? But putting a loved one in an assisted living facility or a hospital and saying, love you, I'll see you tomorrow. That is the most painful thing, because I don't know who Nurse Kathy is over there, because the Nurse Kathy that just talked to me on Wednesday said she wanted to slash somebody's tires. That's just an example. But I've seen that, and it's terrifying. Does that mean that they're going to be lethal to other people? Maybe. So, should we say that about all professions? Probably, right? Because you don't know who's flying that plane. You don't know who's driving that train, and who's putting gas in your car or working on your car. So I think that's just the vulnerability that we have as humans. But in those particular caring places, Ronald Zion, to your point, hospitals, assisted living, I just think they're so cold, and you have to get them to be wise, professional, and on their toes, because they're not unless you're there to push them. Okay, I think I am done. I'm exhausted. Juby Joe says gave up on love. I know. I get that. Kim Matthew. See, I got it right. Kim Matthew says, just jumped on. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to you too. Guys, you guys are wonderful. I am going to call it quits on the live chat so I can have some energy for tomorrow. I'm so exhausted today. Guys, thank you so much for being with me in tonight's live chat. I hope it was helpful. I hope it illuminated that Valentine's Day can be beautiful, but we need to really correct our perception of it, So I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday. I will see you tomorrow for those of you who want to see me tomorrow live. In the meantime, enjoy yourself tonight. Get some rest. I'm going to do that for sure. Love you guys so much. And thank you once again for all your love. Bye.